Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. We, TV33, are going to cover on a report about a survey that we have conducted on students' attitudes toward learning on social media. So as a result, we managed to collect 65 responses through the survey, which is beyond our expectations. Thank you for all the respondents that participating. So without wasting any more time, let's talk about the survey. So, social media promotes self-directed learning, which prepares students to make a decision independently due to the collaborative environment and open forum that the social media encourage, as well as the high pace of information sharing that it allows. Social media helps students to enhance their creativity, their critical thinking and communication abilities in a very specific way. So to discuss further about this topic, I will pass the mic to our reporter on the scene.
Okay, thank you, Hadi, for passing it to me. So, Assalamualaikum, I'm AHMAD. So, I'll be discussing for the first question in our survey. So, the first question is, do students prefer online class rather than face-to-face class? So, it is resulted that 50.8% of the students prefer offline class, which is face-to-face class, rather than the remains, which is 49.2% of them would prefer online class. So the majority of them prefer offline class, which is face-to-face, that give them more impact in learning. For the second question, it resulted that 83.1% of the students prefer to come to the class in the future, yet the remaining say that 16.9% of them prefer not to come to the class. So it shows that there's still a few of the students prefer the flexibility of the future learning to have not to come to the class. Furthermore, 86.2% of the students would prefer their teachers to use social media as a method for the teaching purpose. Yet for the remains, which is 13.8% of them, would prefer the teacher to use the social media as a learning tool. So for further explanation, let's move on to the next reporter.
Oh, hi. Okay, thank you, Naim, for your coverage on the topic. Now I will further explaining about this information on the survey. Well, almost 80% of the respondents agree that social media made their life easier as a student. Meanwhile, 20% of them disagree with the statements. While as for the agreement, I could relate to it because social media does help you to search for information and provide information for you, and even you can stay connected with your tutors for you have a direct communication with them. As for the disagreements, I believe it might be a bit of hassle for them to do assignments online, and they might be not a bit tech savvy. Moving on to the next questions on the survey. So we have made a research about which social media platform is the most popular among UNIZA students. So in the first place, we got TikTok, and the second place, we got Instagrams, and in the third place, we got YouTube. So why TikTok is so popular? Well, TikTok is the youngest generation among social media, and it's leaning towards short forms of video. So younger generations love them because you could be creative, educational with it, and it's also appealing to the general populations. Well, in addition, our research also asked the respondents on how much time they spend a day on social media. Well, according to the result, almost 12.3% of the respondents said that they spend around 1 to 2 hours a day on social media alone. Meanwhile, the majority of them, which is 40% of them, say that they spend around 3 to 4 hours a day. And next is 5 to 9 hours, almost 32% of the respondents say that they spend that time. And the most shocking fact is that almost 15% respondents spend more than 10 hours a day. And of course, social media is important for us to stay connected and keep in touch with our family and friends, but it might be better for you to be cautious because a bit too long might be detrimental to your own health. So I'm moving on to the next reporter.
Based on the research, 43.1% of students agree that they develop better in education by learning through digital medium. Meanwhile, 56.9% of them agree that they develop better in education by learning through physical class. Regarding students' attitude in studies, 69.2% of them agree that media development does give an impact on their studies. Meanwhile, 30.8% of them disagree with that statement, which is media development does give an impact toward their attitudes in their studies.
Furthermore, 81.5% of students in UNIZA agree that the usage of social media in classrooms should be increased and encouraged in lectures. Meanwhile, 18.5% of them disagree with that movement. So, to conclude these questions, I would say that people who are responsible need to agree that social media should be increased and encouraged in the classroom because it gives the students a good impact in their attitudes.
Alright, so thank you Nizam for the report. So based on our research, 83.1% agree that the communication skill can be developed well through the social media, while only 16.9% of our respondents disagree with the questions. So the rise of social media has changed the world's perspective, the whole world perspective on communications. So the increase in the speed of communication has created a sense of urgency and the need to share things among people and to make the messages a bit more personal. So as more generations are born into the social age, social media will keep on becoming the most preferred and the most favored communication form among the young people, especially among the students. Alright, so however, when we ask them about whether they are more or less responsive in the online class, majority of them, which is 69.2% of the respondents, disagree with that, while only 30.7% agree with that. So it means the majority of the respondents disagree when we say that they are more responsive in the online class. There are a lot of reasons that contributing to the result. Let's say the surrounding, for example, the surrounding around them while they are broadcasting the online classes could be the obvious reason why they are saying that they are not really going to be responsive in the online class. Of course, there are a lot of other factors contributing to the result. For example, like the internet problems, the limited access to the gadget, and the insecurities could also be the reason why students are not being responsive while broadcasting their online classes. Alright, so I think that's all from me, and that's all from us on the ground we've done here. Now, let's give the attention back to the studio.
Thank you, Hadi, for the data explanation. So, to conclude our research, most of our respondents agree that social media help them develop better in education. Students have a positive attitude toward learning through social media, but they still feel the needs to go to the physical classes. Both of the style should be applied in their study in order to fit the modernization of education. So that's all from our research. I hope you guys can learn from it.